could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting John Graham. He is a memory champion, entrepreneur, and high performance mentor. Hello John, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Anna, I appreciate the opportunity to share, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. So let's start conversation with diving into your journey of becoming the person you are today. What led you to discover your true passion in life? How did it start for you?
Yeah, it started as an interest, right? Everyone says follow your passion, and I never really bought into that because my passion changes, interests change. And it was when I was 27 years old. This was 10 years ago. I read a book called Moonwalking with Einstein, and the subtitle is really what captured me. It's the art and science of remembering anything or everything. And I was like, how do people remember such crazy amounts of information? I wanted to be like a superhuman, basically.
Mhm.
And this book says, yeah, people don't have photographic memories. It's mostly a myth. There's people all over the world, memory champions, mental athletes, performers who use techniques of the mind. Once you know how to use your mind with imagination, creativity, some structure, some linking abilities, you can actually store information and know where it is in your brain to enhance your memory, enhance your creativity, enhance all these abilities. I mean, you can imagine it plays on to all areas of your life. So I read the book. I learned first thing I learned was how to memorize a deck of cards, as we all, want to learn. So I memorized 52 cards in order in like 6 minutes. I said, okay, this works. I'm going to keep going in this. And that's kind of what started me on my journey. I started competing all over the world, traveling over the world, and that's where I won. I eventually won US championships, but that was the start of it. Was just, I am not born with an innately good memory or ability. I just was interested and took it to the extreme.
Wow. So I think you competed in other countries as well, not just in United States. Is that right?
Yeah, the first competition was in China in 2014. Yeah, and I completely bombed. I completely, it was a disaster. So I could have quit then, but what I learned was the competitors from all over the world, the best in the world, were like sharing with me their secrets, like just
Mm,
giving them to me. It was a very open community because they knew that it took hard work to use and incorporate, but I was like, I need to explore this more. It really interested me. Um, most recently, yeah, most recently I was the last competition I did was in 2019 in Wuhan, China, in
mhm,
December 2019 when COVID, like the first
mhm.
cases of COVID were happening in Wuhan. I had a I was at my peak at that time and was planning on finishing like top 10, top 5 in the world. Like I had that ability. I was that good. And I had a panic attack in the
Mhm.
first event. Very first event. It's a 3-day event. It's like a marathon event, 10 events. Very first event, they handed out the sheets and the images that we were memorizing were blurry. And I was like, I went into a internal panic because I was so prepared to like dominate that event, start off on a hot streak, and I just internally melted down and faced all my demons. And that's what started me on the real journey I was on today, where I'm at today is like overcoming those inner demons, anxiety, panic, all of the insecurities that hold us back.
Right. Yes, and as you mentioned, panic attacks could happen at any moment, and usually something triggers within the interaction with other people, or perhaps some kind of events that's happened in our life, some experiences, and it really brings to the surface unprocessed emotions that we carry with us day after day. And a lot of people feel stress and they don't give themselves time, or I would say they don't prioritize their mental health to the point where they really give themselves time to process those emotions. And I just want you to elaborate more on how do you think mental health affecting our physical health? What is the connection, mind-body connection? And also practices that helped you to go through releasing anxiety, this negative thinking, panic attacks. How did you deal with this?
Yeah, I suffered with it. I was having debilitating panic attacks daily, like multiple per day. So I got to the peak of it, and it was, if you've ever had one, you feel like you're going to die. It's so scary because you feel it in your body. It's not just in your head. The head is where the panic starts, right? What I learned and the truth of what, in my experience, I think calling it mental health isn't helpful anymore because the real root is emotional.
Hmm.
The suffering and the symptoms are mental. So all of the solutions out there these days, supplements, talk therapy, meditation, they try to calm the mind or dig and find the root, right? But you can't get to the real root of it. The real root is, like you mentioned, the unprocessed emotions. There's so much that we carry our whole lives. We all do this, by the way,
Mhm.
in different realms. Emotional pain that we've carried our whole lives, events we couldn't handle, that we pushed away throughout our whole lives when we were 3 years old, 12
Mhm.
years old, 27 years old, doesn't matter. If we didn't process that moment fully, the way the emotion wanted to be processed, it's stored in our body, in our nervous system, in our cells, in our being. And so the only way to move through chronic anxiety like I had and panic attacks is to feel that voltage, that emotion, whatever it is, whether it's anger, paralysis, numbness, anxiety, to fully feel it. I know how uncomfortable it is, but that's what releases it for good. Because when you process that feeling that's stored, it releases for good. And you can
Mhm.
imagine over time, if you're consistent and devoted to that, you just get more intimate with those feelings. Meaning, like, it's like I was telling someone yesterday, it's like stepping into an ice cold pool. At
Mhm.
first, it's so unbearable to like put your toe in. It's like so cold, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with emotional pain. You start dipping your toe, feeling it, and then you get your toe out. Then you put your foot in, then you slowly put your leg in, and then you step out for 5 minutes, warm up, and then you go back in. If you can get comfortable with that feeling, that uncomfortable pain, it will process out. I guarantee it. It will process out for good. And the more you do that, the freer you can be of all of these debilitating anxieties, depressions, panic. So what I help people with now, what helped me is feeling the feelings, feeling the sensations, the energy, not ruminating, marinating, digging up here, because this is what gets in the way.
Yeah.
We need to get away from the mind and move into the body, into the emotional center, the nervous system to process out what's in our way, those blocks.
Yes, and you just said it right. So we have to let ourselves feel. I think a lot of times people confuse that with being weak, like if you let yourself feel or be vulnerable or open up, whatever is helping you to process those emotions, they think it's them being weak, and that's how they create this defense system, suppress those emotions and never share. But they don't realize that this is what creates suffering, and that's self-inflicted suffering, because we can choose differently. We can let ourselves feel and make it as a daily practice, really check in with how we're feeling right now. What is it that's coming up? Can I give myself time to really process and let it out? Because the more you process, the less power it has over you over time. But you don't know that unless you let it just flow.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. And men have a very hard time with this because
Yeah.
we've been conditioned, be strong, hold it in, don't talk about your feelings, right? And so, and I get it, but here's the thing, if you're a human being, man or woman, you have hundreds of different emotions. Like it's built into our experience. It's a part of us, whether you want it or not, it's a
Yeah.
part of the human experience. And so like being ashamed of feelings, it's like being ashamed of a mouth. like having a mouth. We
Mhm.
all have mouths, right? It's a part of the experience. Same thing with your emotions, and pushing them away is the weakness. It means you can't handle what's happening in your reality. And the fact is, it stays with you. It will keep showing up in
Right.
your whole life, louder and louder until you face it. That's why I was having debilitating panic attacks, because my whole life I had tried to control my situation. I wanted to get what I wanted and avoid what I didn't want. Well,
Mm.
reality has a hard time with that because reality wins 100% of the time, right? So
Mm.
if you're denying the feelings and experiences you have internally, you're suppressing it. And then though that's the weakness is putting a mask on and hiding that defense. And there's no judgment. We all go through this.
Mhm.
But the real strength is saying, I'm a human being. Yeah, I had anxiety. Yeah, I felt this. You probably do too. And sharing that, like that's authentic. And then people are drawn to that. People resonate with that. Because no one wants to listen to someone who's like got it all figured out and like
Mm.
at the top, right? And like putting on shields and manipulating. People want to hear about your real human experience so you can help.
Definitely. And I know personally what it feels like to go through anxiety. And even I experienced panic attack once in my life as well. And it feels like you can't breathe. This is the end of life and nothing you can do to make it go away. But eventually, over time, like once you go through that experience, you know that nothing happened. I survived this. Actually, what was blocking me is myself in my mind, creating that story that this is something that would, not go away or would really like hurt me. And I was scared to face it, right? And once you have courage to face those fears, face those emotions that are unpleasant, and they will not go away. They will show up in a different scenario, different situation with different people. But really, once you face them, you will see for what they are, not what you think they are. We create the story, we give it meaning, but we just need to find courage to face them and really let them go and free ourselves from that type of interpretation of what might happen and why might this person or what is the story, because we attach to our stories what happened to the past, and perhaps that's preventing us from facing the truth. But we have to start being honest and let ourselves to be vulnerable and really like facing it and speaking up about it, sharing it, and that creates the liberation for every one of us, and we start feeling better over time.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe it's not going to happen overnight, but the more you uh, really integrate it in your daily practice, the more you know that nothing bad will happen. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to die. It's just part of the experience, part of the human that you are. And that's beautiful. Everyone has to experience different type of emotion in their life, and that's okay. If you embrace that, step into your power and become that person who is not afraid to face anything that comes in the way, anything.
Mhm.
That's what the transformation is. And the way you start feeling is just going to liberate you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're exactly right. You not necessarily facing the fear mentally, but feeling the fear when it comes up, just feeling that uncomfortable feeling will give you the intelligence to learn, oh, that was my story. That gives you clarity on where you were stuck. You don't get clarity by just like reading quotes and listening to podcasts and stuff. You will get your clarity, your light bulb moments when you move through that energy, that pain that's stored inside of you. It's like downloading codes, right?
Mhm.
So everyone tries to come over their mental blocks here and their fears here, but it's going to be a struggle. It's going to take a while. And I say this as a mental champion. Like I love the mind, the brain. I wanted to hack my mind and my brain and all this cool stuff that's trendy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the real juice of it is what you said, feeling that fear, letting it wash over you. You're safe, sitting with it, just like you would for a child that's crying, right? Just sit with them till it passes. Same thing with you. And then the moment, like not maybe not the moment it clears, but later that day or an hour later, all of a sudden, boom, you see so clearly where you were stuck. And you do this all on your own. You don't need a therapist, you don't need a doctor, you don't need a podcast, you don't need a thing. Like it comes because that energy inside of you had the intelligence all along.
Yes, and we just need to create that safe space for ourselves. Same as you create that space, like you said, for the child or for your friend, let's say, when they try to share something with you. But now it's you who creating that safe space to your inner child or to those unprocessed emotions, right? Knowing that nothing bad will happen. You just need to be willing to face it, sit with it, and see how you're gonna start feeling after those emotions go through, washes over you. And that intelligence, yes, it opens up a lot of, I would say, potential within you that you never knew existed. And that new energy, that new fuel that is inside of you now, it's like it's gonna all worth it in the end. So you just don't know because, again, it might seem scary, but unless you experience it and show it to yourself that it's not scary, nothing will really be enough for you to assure yourself. You have to go through that. We have to experience that to
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah. For anyone listening, like you're exactly right. The anger that's inside of you, the jealousy, the frustration, the fear, the anxiety, the paralysis, all of that unwanted, and I'm doing air quotes here for those listening,
Yeah.
unwanted emotions, negative, quote unquote, that is the supplement you want for your potential. That's the juice. That is what you want to expand. So don't think of it as like that is so uncomfortable. I don't want to feel that way. Don't seek feeling better immediately with like a cell phone or a walk or a podcast or, I keep bringing up podcasts. Here I am on a podcast, but I'm sharing this like you're not going to get the intelligence from listening. You're going to get it from inside, not from a supplement, not from a therapist, not from a meditation. You're going to get it by accessing that code inside of you. And that's why so many people like push it away because they don't realize that. I
Mm.
didn't either. I thought it was bad stuff. I think people think that if they go there and feel those things and think those things, that they'll manifest nastiness in their lives. And that's the
Mhm.
furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
If you lean into stuff that's already a part of you that needs to be seen, you will expand, right? It's not going to manifest nightmares in your life. You're already manifesting nightmares in your life because you're avoiding that stuff. Right?
Mhm.
By facing that stuff is what expands us naturally.
Yes. And I think every emotion has it's like a polarity of things, right? It's like a stick from two sides of it. There is something bad, negative, or unpleasant, and the other side of the same stick is something that really inspiring, joyful, and passionate, let's say. So, but you have to start with one part of the stick in order to move through to the spectrum of the same type of emotion on the other side of it. So you have to let yourself take that ride, really, because pain will liberate you. Pain, I mean, different type of unpleasant emotion. Once you let the pain to really remove your defenses, it will liberate you. So you have to see it as a servant for you, not as an enemy. It
Yep.
really brings your attention to what matters, not for you to ignore it, to push it away, but to face it, to acknowledge it, to give it voice, to make it heard, seen, whatever you need to do. But it's for a reason for you to really pay attention to how you feel and make it a priority.
Yeah. Make it a priority. So literally how this will show up in people's lives is you check your email, you get an email you don't like, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's annoying, someone who's frustrating, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happened. All that matters is there's a feeling that's arising within me that's very strong. I'm feeling pissed off or whatever. Instead of grabbing your phone, scrolling to, calm down, which all that is bypassing and distraction. You're literally distracting yourself from yourself. You're pacifying that feeling. And it's okay. Again, no judgment. We all do this. But instead of seeking the walk to feel better or the go work out to feel better, first, just like sit with it. It's going to be highly uncomfortable. Your mind's going to go crazy. Your mind's going to say, this is unproductive. I got better stuff to do. I can't be doing this. I don't have time for this. This is a waste of time. This isn't working. It's going to say all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
That's your ego. That's okay. That's a structure that you've created or that has been created. We can talk about that, but really just be with the feeling. Relax your body and it will release. And when that part of you releases, it will be integrated. It will be released for good. And that intelligence is there. And if you do this, and I talk to my clients about this, if you devote yourself to this every day, not just when you have time, you can relax while you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. You can relax in the grocery store if someone is taking forever, whatever. If something arises, feel it, be with it. Because I can guarantee you, you will get epiphanies, insights, downloads, breakthroughs just by sitting with your own stuff. You will break free of patterns. You will see patterns clearly that you've been stuck in your whole life or, recently,
Mhm.
right? Just with that intelligence.
Yes, and I think also it's crucial for us to become aware, to become present in this moment, not, like you said, to distract ourselves or keep thinking about past or worrying about future. But how can we become more present so we can recognize those thoughts that rise up, those emotions that come, and see that it's something I need to focus on in the present moment. So what would be um, you know, your advice or maybe the practice that you do in your own life that helped you to become more aware and to bring yourself to this present moment and really embody who you want to be and being this high integrity person here right now?
Yeah, you're right, because awareness is the first step. Because otherwise, what people will realize is that they're so reactive. Like this was startling for me when I started noticing. I,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down what I did was I started noticing all the moments that bothered me. I made a list. Every moment that bothered me in some way, whether it was anger, jealousy, embarrassment, um, just a visceral reaction to someone, a family member, a friend, doesn't matter. And I was startled. My
Mm-hmm.
clients get startled. They freak out sometimes because like, oh my gosh, I'm so reactive. I'm so bothered by life. I'm like, that's the gold. Like that is you taking the red pill in the Matrix. That is you in the Wizard of Oz stepping outside and now you see color. That is the moment where you can now wake up. These are all the moments in my life that are pointing to some suppressed energy in me. This is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. It's an indication, right? So the only way to become aware is to just have that intention. Like I'm going to start listing or noticing all the stuff that bothers me and not judging myself for it because we all do this. But
Yes.
those are the gateways, those bothered moments when someone cuts you off, when someone sends you the email, those triggers are not the problem. Those are mirrors. Those are good things. Those are both showing you there's something inside of me that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be felt. That needs to be seen. right? That needs to be
Right.
released and integrated. So that's what I started doing, is just making a list. Like all left brain person would, right? I was very left brain. I was like analytical. Let's take a survey of what's bothering me. And just that was what opened it up for me. And then I just started noticing more and more. I wanted this stuff out because
Mm.
I wanted this stuff gone. I didn't want to feel it anymore. So I
Yeah.
started with that. And then I realized, like we talked about earlier, that this is what we want to feel. This is spiritual growth. This is what the juice is. This is what I want
Mhm.
to feel and experience. As uncomfortable it is, this is where I grow. And so over time, I started wanting it more and more. Like, not in a weird way, not like wanting to be punished and pain, but I was like looking for those moments that I could grow because I knew they're expansive.
Yes. So once you know the benefits of facing those emotions, that's how you become intentional in finding more of what life brings to your attention to really look at. And I think that's where you find yourself growing more and expanding and letting yourself to step into becoming that person and really like in the daily life, you don't want to be reactive. You want to respond with intention. But for that to happen, you have to be in control of your emotional state. You have to know how you feel. You have to see what it is and like really be clear what's happening, not being on autopilot and just creating, something that you don't want to create. And it will liberate you, and interaction with other people will become much easier, and it will really like make you feel better in your life. So I think with making a list of noticing something that come up as a trigger, which is an indicator, not something to be ashamed of or to be running from, to be scared of, but really like take it in as a message for you, right? Message from life. Let's explore that further. Let's take that juice in, that fuel in, and go to the other side of it.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I took it. Yeah. And I mean, you realize that you're not okay on the inside. And that's okay to admit because I think, again, as a human experience, we all do this. So instead of like one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm trying to get everything I want. I got a money goal, I got a car goal, I got a house goal, I got a family goal, I got to want to go on the vacations, I want this life, I want this to happen, I want it to be sunny outside, right? All these preferences and desires. But I don't want this to happen. I don't want someone to say no to me. I don't want people to find out that I do this. I don't want people to, know this about me. Like, are all these things. So my whole life I was like chasing things I wanted, trying to manifest things I wanted
Mm.
because I wasn't okay on the inside, because I couldn't handle the things I didn't want. So instead of wanting things externally to make me happy, because look, I've got 3 trophies behind me. I'm a 3-time US memory champion.
Yeah.
When I won those awards, it felt great for a day. And then the next morning I woke up, I want another one.
Mm.
It never ends. If you use your external world to always want that next big money month or that next amazing relationship or that next amazing thing, it doesn't make those things wrong that you can't have them. But I was like, why am I not okay on the inside? Why do I desire these things so much? It was because, again, I was not okay. Moments from my past, conditioning of the mind. And so the internal work is what helps you to be happy.
Yeah.
Because instead of waiting for something outside of you to make you happy, like a great cup of coffee or the next client or the next money or whatever, you're okay with whatever happens. If you have no preferences, if you don't, my goal is to be unbothered. That's why I'm searching for all the things that bother me. Because if I can neutralize that internal feeling,
Yeah.
then I don't have all these desires from a wounded self. Then
Mm.
I'm more of my fullest potential. Then I have less tainted conditioning guiding me, right? And I'm more whole, I'm more integrated, I'm more okay, and I'm more heart driven because I don't care as much as me, 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 me. what do I want? I am more expansive because I'm helping humanity. I'm sharing and pouring out,
Yeah.
right? So that was my view on it, is like, I'm gonna stop chasing all this stuff. Doesn't mean I can't have it. I still want to go on trips and all this stuff,
Of
right? I'm
course.
human,
Yeah.
but I don't need it to be happy. And that was a big shift for me.
Yes, and I think it's something we should really think about, that why we're chasing something in life, why we want this sort type of achievement. What are we trying to prove? Who are we trying to impress? Is it something that we want, or is it a way of really like proving our self-worth in a way for, I don't know, our family, friend, or to even ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And if we're doing that, why are we doing that? What are we trying to escape? What are we running from? What are we not ready to face? And um, I think eventually, once you start doing that inner work and integrating something that was left behind and unseen, the more you become a person who doesn't feel like they need anything external. And
Yeah.
once you release that need, that's when you get it.
Then you're powerful. Yeah.
Then it comes to you naturally, even if you don't even want it anymore. It
Yeah.
just comes, right? But the more you chase it, the less, uh, you know, the less chance of you getting it, and you become frustrated. And maybe it's just the way life showing you this is not what you need,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So once you start releasing that, first of all, you become happy without anything external. And
Yeah.
once you're happier on your own, it's just, kind of like your life becomes a reflection of your inner world, right? If you are happy with nothing, it shows that you're like, you have it available to you.
You have it.
Basically, it becomes more of the opportunities that coming into your life that will be a reflection of who you are internally.
Yeah. I have an example to share this is neediness, right? I used to do one-on-one calls. This is a while ago, with clients, people who are interested in what I offered. And
Mm.
some of the calls, I noticed that, I was at the end of the call, they would say, I need to think about it, give me some time. And it would bother me on the inside. And all of a sudden, I would unconsciously just start trying to like guilt trip people,
Mm.
like subtly manipulate in a way, like making them feel bad for like waiting or like not, right? And it came out of me. I was not proud of it, but I noticed it.
Mhm.
And coaches are telling me, the mind stuff, they're telling me like, oh, you can't be needy, you can't be needy, like you got to be this way, and giving me a script, right? And very heady. Like we try to solve it with our head. Oh, that makes sense. It totally made sense. I was needy. I knew it. I saw it. I felt it. It was
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And so I felt it, right? Talking about what we're doing. I stopped with this stuff because it just kept
Mhm.
happening. And I felt that discomfort. And here's the thing, when I felt that feeling of uncomfortable feeling after a call, and I just sat with it, I got my epiphany. I noticed that this was a pattern that one of my parents had.
Mm.
I had in the upbringing. So every time my parent guilt tripped or subtly manipulated or whatever, it was like subtle. I
Mhm.
felt awful inside. I felt that feeling.
Mhm.
So I felt that feeling from someone else, but I also had that same pattern in me. And that's another indication is if someone triggers you, it means you have that part, a similar part trapped inside of you
Yeah.
to heal. So what I learned was by feeling that feeling, I saw the pattern clearly from my life, from my upbringing. And from that feeling, I felt it and I felt it and I was just aware of it anytime it showed up. And within a week, I noticed I was at ease on calls. I wasn't attached. I wasn't trying to manipulate, wasn't trying to deceive. And it didn't happen up here. It happened by me feeling that feeling, which gave me clarity to see the pattern in my life,
Yeah.
to then, gently bring my attention to it until it passed. But that's
Mhm.
the thing. I felt it and integrated into me, up leveled, expanded. So I didn't have that need. And again, you're powerful when you don't have that need and you're not bothered and reactive. People feel you. People feel that embodiment. And
Yes.
so if you're out there and you're in sales or in life and business and you notice this in you too, and it's driving you nuts, it's like a mental block. It's that internal feeling.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect example of how we can become aware and notice when something is unpleasant, something that bothers you, and it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel comfortable. What is it that either you doing or somebody else is doing that reminds you or triggers something in you? What is it? And once you start questioning, even just asking that simple question, so why did I feel this way today? What happened? And really like, you know, look at it as a movie, right? You're watching a movie, like what really happened? What were the events and why I started feeling this way? And realizing that perhaps that's something connected to a certain pattern in my life, right? If I know that now, if I bring it to the surface now, if I name it now, if I look at it, I know what I'm dealing with. You have to know what you're dealing with in order for it to go, right? If you're afraid to look at it, even you wouldn't know what you're dealing with and nothing will go away.
Yeah. You have to know, you have to see your pattern in order to change it. But before you can really get clarity on your pattern, you got to feel the energy that's that's smacking you in the face, quite honestly.
Mhm.
Your whole, like, and by the way, you don't need to go digging for these things. They're like, if you pay attention in your life, you will notice these things hitting you in the face all the
Yeah.
time. They're loud, right? They're the uncomfortable moments that hit you in the face. Stop trying to, figure out mentally what's going on and just like be in that feeling. And this is what I walk people through because initially it's difficult. If you're in anxiety or you're conditioned to the mind, you're very left-brained, you live in that mind. You try to figure everything out with your mind, and it's
Mhm.
exhausting, right? So it's releasing control of that conditioning and going within, as general as that sounds, going
Mhm.
into the feeling, the visible, tense, dark, heavy feeling, whatever it is, and just being with it. I know that sounds crazy. As a guy, if you would have told me this a while ago, I would have been like, this is nuts. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I swear to you, like from a left brain, anxious, mental champion, I can
Mhm.
guarantee you this is the answer. Like it doesn't make any, it doesn't, your mind will go crazy when you're sitting with these emotions. Maybe women are, naturally better at this, right? And we look for that. Women
Usually,
are beautiful
I
in that way.
think, I think with women, it's more accepted in the society. We don't feel as much pressure, even though I felt pressure in my life because I was just, in a family where again it was kind of weakness to show your emotions. So it depends where you've been, how you've been raised, I guess, what kind of culture you're from, right? So all those details about your upbringing, either men or women usually have that. Mostly men, I would say, but I know women too, like they're trying to prove themselves being strong, right? And not showing any type of weakness in terms of feeling and emotion. And I want all of us to really accept it as something that is essential in our lives, something that we have to integrate as a practice. It has to become a priority. Not talking about uh, avoiding or shaming that or making it something that is of a weakness, but rather look at it from a different perspective and knowing that it will only bring us benefits. It will only liberate us. It would only give us power, really. So if we know that, we have to be intentional every single day, noticing, making a note or writing down or just feeling and seeing what is it that's coming up for me, and how can I process it right now, today? Don't delay. Sometimes you notice something, but you think it's not important. You just like put it away, like maybe one day. But if you know it now, just it's better to face it now, deal with this, give yourself time, not delay it, not procrastinate on it, because it will show up again and again and again and becomes louder and louder until it screams.
Yeah.
Why don't you listen until it, from whisper point? Why waiting until it screams?
Mhm. Yeah, I did, and it was miserable. Yeah, and it's awful. And it shows up as massive depression, massive panic attacks, massive anxiety, whatever, right? And it's okay. We all go through this as humans. And the biggest barrier, I think, people listening to this are probably nodding their heads and understanding this. When you actually go and try this for yourself, the mind will get in the way. And just very quickly, your mind, it is the thoughts you have are neurotic.
Mm.
Everyone does. Everyone has self-doubt, these crazy thoughts, demons, right, from time to time. That is your ego mind. That is not you, meaning it's a construct. Your life, especially the first 7 years of your life, your upbringing, her things you heard, the TV shows, the parenting, the teachers, not to blame anyone, but it formed your structure of reality, right? It formed your structure, your beliefs. That's it. You absorbed it like a sponge. Your brain was literally in a theta wave and it just took everything and absorbed it. And so that's your control, that's your conditioning, your control conditioning. And so that's all it is. If you're sitting there and trying to feel your emotions, those crazy thoughts you're having, this is a waste
Mm.
of time. You got better stuff to do. What about this later? You got to figure this out. You got to just watch those thoughts. The reason you're supposed to just watch them is because they're not yours. You don't have to identify and say, that's me, that's John Graham. It's not. It's a construct. And the more you do this and bring your attention to your feelings, your sensations, and just let the mind go, don't push it away. Don't try to silence it or, hush it or be grateful, out grateful it, whatever. Just let it be and watch it. And the more you do this, the more it disarms that power. It creates a buffer.
Yeah.
And in that buffer is the peace. And that buffer is, oh, it's just my ego mind, right? It's just my belief, my upbringing. And you can watch it. You'll notice patterns like crazy. You'll notice all this stuff like crazy. So I think that's the biggest tip I can give people is don't worry about that mind. It's going to tell you to get up and walk away. It's going to tell you this is boring. It's going to tell you all kinds of stuff. Just watch it.
Definitely. And I'm so glad we had this conversation today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. For those who would like to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a free guide for anyone who has chronic anxiety, panic attacks, even some of the things we talked about, how to release that at the root for good, like forever. It's just a quick video, more direct on what we shared today. You can go to releasepanic.com/free for that free video. I'm also pretty active on Instagram at Memory John G, John with an H. So I'd be happy to shoot me a message, ask me anything. But I offer for people, for high performers interested in fully releasing these trapped emotions to expand their fullest potential, I offer an 8-week transformational program called Released. So you can find information at releasepanic.com. I'd be honored for anyone who's committed to doing this, not wanting the easy way out, to welcome you in and share with you how to do this in a really simple 3-step process.
Yes. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.